The first time my son called me unfit, he did it beside my own kitchen table. There were 14 relatives in the house that afternoon. My sister Peggy stood near the sink with a paper plate in her hand. My cousin Martin was cutting the birthday cake Carolyn used to make for me. Shane kept rubbing his thumb across the edge of his phone. He wouldn't look straight at me. Whitney did enough looking for both of them. She sat with her purse resting against her chair. Her back was stiff, and her lips were pressed together. She had the expression people wear when they've practiced being patient. My name is Philip Horton, and I'm 71 years old. Before I go further, what city are you listening from? That birthday gathering happened at my house on Chipeta Avenue in Grand Junction, Colorado. I'd lived there for more than 30 years. I'd paid off the mortgage. I'd repaired every leaking faucet and loose railing myself. Carolyn had chosen the curtains, the cabinet handles, and the yellow paint in the laundry room. She'd planted roses along the western fence because that side caught the afternoon sun. Carolyn was my wife. She'd been gone 5 years by then. That afternoon, I'd spent the first hour pretending everything felt normal. I accepted a new pair of work gloves from Peggy. I thanked Martin for bringing potato salad. I let Whitney rearrange the food on the counter because she said people needed room. Then Shane tapped a fork against his paper cup. It wasn't loud, but everyone stopped talking. He stood beside the table and cleared his throat twice. "Dad, we need to discuss something while everybody's here." I looked around the room. "Everybody?" Whitney leaned forward. "It concerns everybody, Philip." That was my first warning. She normally called me Dad around relatives. Whenever she used Philip, she wanted distance. "We've had concerns about you living here alone." "What concerns?" "Just things we've noticed." I waited. Nobody moved. Even the refrigerator seemed louder than usual. Peggy slowly lowered her plate. Shane said, "There have been some issues with your memory, managing the house, keeping up with paperwork." I looked at him. "What paperwork?" He swallowed. "That's not really the point." It sounded exactly like the point. Whitney stepped in before he could answer. "We're trying to help you before something serious happens." I turned toward her. "What do you think is going to happen?" She gave me a careful little smile. "That's why we need a plan." Behind her, through the dining room window, I could see Carolyn's roses. The pink ones had opened that week. Whitney followed my eyes toward the garden. Then she said something I still remember word for word. "That whole side is overgrown anyway. Before any sale, those bushes will probably need to be cleared." The room stayed quiet. She'd said before any sale, not if there was a sale. Shane stared down at the table. Peggy looked from him to me. I placed both hands flat on the counter. Nobody there knew what I'd already noticed. Nobody knew what I'd checked. They didn't know about the appointment I'd made or the papers I'd signed. At that moment, they believed they were surprising an old man. To understand how they reached that point, you have to go back 7 weeks. It started with a pamphlet on my kitchen counter. That sounds harmless. I know it does. It was a glossy brochure for a senior living community outside Fruta. The cover showed 2 gray-haired people laughing beside a swimming pool. Inside were pictures of a dining room, a small apartment, and something called a memory support wing. I found it on a Tuesday morning beneath my truck keys. I'd been outside since a little after 6, trimming dead growth from the roses. July heat comes early in Grand Junction. By 8, my shirt was sticking between my shoulder blades. I came inside, washed my hands, and started coffee. That was when I saw it. I picked it up and checked the back. There was no mailing label. Someone had brought it into the house. At first I thought Peggy had left it. She had stopped by the previous Sunday with peaches from Palisade. Peggy worried about me in the ordinary way sisters do. She asked whether I was eating properly and complained that my porch light was too dim. I called her while the coffee brewed. She answered after 4 rings. "Philip, if this is about those peaches, they're supposed to be soft. It's not the peaches." "What happened? Did you leave a senior living brochure here?" There was a pause. "A what?" I read the community's name from the cover. "No." "Why would I leave that?" "I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Did somebody mail it?" "No label." "Well, maybe Shane brought it. Maybe." Peggy's voice softened. "Would it be terrible to look? I'm standing in my kitchen making coffee. I didn't say you had to move. You asked if I should look. I'm only saying those places aren't what they used to be." That answer bothered me more than the pamphlet. "Has Whitney talked to you?" Peggy hesitated just long enough. She mentioned being worried. "About what?" "Nothing specific." "Then what did she say?" She said you'd seemed lonely. I looked through the window above the sink. I wasn't lonely that morning. I was irritated. There's a difference. I'm fine, Peggy. I know you are. She said it quickly. We talked another minute, mostly about the heat. After hanging up, I placed the pamphlet in the drawer beside the refrigerator. I didn't throw it away. Running an excavation company taught me not to discard odd things too soon. People assume excavation is mostly machinery and dirt. A large part of it is noticing what doesn't belong. Soft ground where there shouldn't be any. A utility marked 2 feet from the plans. Water collecting where the grade says it can't. I started Horton Excavation and grading with a used backhoe and 1 employee. By the time I retired, we had 12 trucks and steady commercial work across the valley. I wasn't some business genius. I returned calls, I paid people on Friday, I checked measurements myself when something felt wrong. That habit never left me. Carolyn used to say I could sense a crooked fence underground. She handled the parts of life I overlooked. Birthdays, thank you cards, clean shirts for weddings. She could remember what everyone ordered at a restaurant and still forget where she'd set her glasses. In 2015, when I retired, we placed the house into the Horton Family Revocable Trust. The name sounded grander than the thing itself. We weren't wealthy people playing Dynasty. The trust held our paid-off house and several accounts. It explained who could manage them if Carolyn or I couldn't. Shane was named to step in after us. He was our only son. At the time, that choice seemed obvious. Shane had always been steady, not forceful, but steady. He arrived when he said he would. He kept the same job with a building supply distributor for years. If I needed help lifting something, he came over. His problem was conflict. When Shane was uncomfortable, he didn't lie exactly. He just stood quietly while the loudest person decided what was true. Carolyn saw it before I did. A few months before she died, she and I sat on the back patio. She had a blanket across her knees, though the afternoon was warm. Treatment had made her cold all the time. Shane and Whitney had just left after an awkward dinner. Whitney wanted us to replace the old kitchen. She knew a contractor, she knew a lender, she knew what the house would be worth afterward. I'd told her the cabinets worked. After they left, Carolyn watched me gather the plates. She pushes him, she said. Whitney pushes everybody. He lets her. I stacked the plates beside the sink. She's his wife. That doesn't mean he has to disappear. I looked at Carolyn. Did he say something to you? No. That's what worries me. She rubbed one hand along the blanket. Then she nodded toward the roses. Promise me you won't let people hurry you out of here. Nobody's hurrying me anywhere. Promise anyway. So I did. When she died in 2021, she was 64. For months afterward, I kept expecting to hear her moving in another room. The house had noises I'd never noticed before. The air return clicked at night. The hallway floor gave one sharp creak near the linen closet. Sprinklers along the alley came on before dawn. I learned them all. Keeping the roses alive gave my mornings a shape. Carolyn had planted several varieties, though I never remembered every name. I knew which ones needed less water. I knew which bush caught aphids first. I knew she hated perfect rows, so I never tried making them straight. Whitney called the garden messy. She'd said it more than once. A week before the pamphlet appeared, Shane and Whitney came for dinner. I made grilled chicken, baked potatoes, and corn. Whitney arrived carrying a bottle of white wine. She set it down and walked through the kitchen without taking off her sunglasses. You still haven't fixed that cabinet door, she said. It closes. It drops on one side. I like knowing which cabinet is mine. She didn't laugh. Shane did, but only for half a second. During dinner, Whitney asked about my property insurance. Then she asked whether the tax bill came directly to me or through the trust. I noticed because those weren't dinner questions. Why? I asked. She cut her chicken into very small pieces. It came up at work. My tax bill came up at your work? No, trust did. Whitney had taken a loan officer position 2 years earlier. She worked at a regional mortgage lender near Patterson Road. She often spoke as if every conversation was a financial consultation nobody had requested. She set down her knife. You'd be surprised how many older homeowners don't understand what they signed. I understood mine. I'm sure you did then. The word then sat between us. Shane reached for the salt. Whitney's just saying documents get outdated. Mine are at Eric Nguyen's office. Who's Eric? She asked. My attorney. Her eyes shifted toward Shane. He kept looking at his plate. That should have told me something. Instead, I assumed Shane had mentioned the trust casually. Families discuss things. I didn't want to make every awkward question suspicious. After dinner, Whitney wandered into the living room, while Shane helped me carry plates. She was gone, maybe 5 minutes. The pamphlet appeared 2 days later. Once Peggy denied leaving it, I called Shane. He answered from work. I could hear forklifts beeping behind him. "Hey, Dad, everything okay? Did you leave a senior living brochure on my counter?" He didn't respond immediately. Whitney might have. Why? She picks up brochures. For fun? No. Come on, what did she want me to do with it? She probably thought you might want information. About memory support? Another pause. I haven't seen it. Did she tell you she was worried about me? She worries about everybody. That isn't an answer. A man called Shane's name in the background. Shane covered the phone, answered him, then came back. "Dad, I've got a delivery here. Did she leave it?" "I don't know. Ask her." He ended the call quickly. I stood beside the counter holding my phone. Shane had never liked being questioned, even when he was young. Pressure made him retreat. Still, this felt different. That evening, Whitney called me. Her voice was bright. "Shane said you found the information I brought, so you did leave it." "Yes, I forgot to mention it." "Why was it under my keys? I probably set it down." "You put my keys on top of it?" "I don't remember, Philip." There was that name again. I pulled out a kitchen chair and sat. "Why do you think I need memory support?" "I don't. It's inside the brochure. I didn't design the brochure. Why bring it here?" She sighed. It wasn't an angry sigh. It was the weary kind used by someone pretending you've missed an obvious point. There are independent cottages there too. Meals, landscaping, maintenance. You wouldn't have to manage everything alone. I manage fine, until you don't. The kitchen clock clicked twice before I answered. "Did Shane ask you to bring it?" We discussed options. "What options?" "For later. I'd like later to wait until I invite it." She went quiet. Then her voice softened. "Your defensiveness is exactly why these conversations are difficult." That was neatly done. She brought an unwanted brochure into my house. I objected. My objection became the problem. I looked toward the drawer where I'd placed it. "I'm not being defensive. You sound upset. I'm asking direct questions." "Well, maybe think about why this bothers you so much." She ended with, "We love you," then hung up. The next morning, I took the pamphlet outside. I sat at the patio table and read every page. A business card had been tucked into the back pocket. Jennifer Munoz, Senior Transition Consultant. Under her name were the words, "Personal Assessments and Placement Guidance." Someone had written my first name in blue ink across the top. I put the card back exactly where I found it. Then I carried the pamphlet inside and returned it to the drawer. For several days, nothing else happened. I worked in the garden. I changed the oil in my truck. Dale Wright met me for breakfast at a diner on North Avenue. Dale had been my friend since before either of us had gray hair. He'd retired from managing a bank branch, though people still called him with questions. I considered mentioning the pamphlet, then I decided it sounded silly. A brochure wasn't a crime. Whitney was pushy. Shane avoided arguments. Peggy worried too easily. Those were existing problems, not a conspiracy. Then my electric bill failed to arrive. I kept paper bills by choice. I knew online payment was easier. I also liked opening an envelope, checking the amount, and writing the date on the top. The bill usually came on Thursday. By Saturday, it still wasn't there. On Monday afternoon, I found it in the mailbox. The envelope had been opened along the side and closed again with clear tape. I stood at the curb examining it. Our street was quiet. A sprinkler hissed across the sidewalk 2 houses down. Somebody's dog barked behind a wooden fence. The bill inside looked normal. I checked the amount, then inspected the envelope again. The tape ran in a clean line from top to bottom. It wasn't torn by a sorting machine. Someone had opened it carefully. I called the utility company. A woman named Denise confirmed the bill had been mailed on schedule. She asked whether I wanted to switch to electronic statements. "No," I said. "Has anyone changed the mailing address?" She checked. "No, sir." "Has anyone accessed my account?" "I can see an online login from last Friday." "I don't use the online account." She asked me to verify my identity. Then she reset the password and added a verbal security code. "Do you recognize the email address we had listed?" she asked. She read it aloud. It was Whitney's email. I gripped the receiver tighter. "When was that added?" "There isn't a date visible on my screen." "Remove it." Denise replaced it with mine. After we hung up, I checked every envelope on my desk: water, insurance, property tax notice, bank statement. The bank statement had a thin tear under the flap. I drove to the post office annex and asked whether my mail had been held or redirected. The clerk checked my address. No hold, he said, no forwarding order. Can somebody else pick up my mail? Not unless you authorized it. I didn't. He suggested I speak with my carrier. The next morning, I waited near the driveway until the mail truck arrived. The carrier was a woman I recognized but had never properly met. I introduced myself and showed her the taped envelope. She frowned. That didn't happen in my truck. Has anyone been meeting you for my mail? No. Has my son asked you to hold anything? No, sir. She glanced toward the porch. Do you have a locked box? I've never needed one. You may want one now. That afternoon, I bought a locking mailbox from the hardware store. I installed it on the same post before dinner. While putting away my drill, I noticed something through the kitchen window. Whitney's car was parked across the street. She sat behind the wheel with her phone raised near her face. When she saw me looking, she lowered it and waved. I stepped outside. She pulled away before I reached the sidewalk. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Shane. Dad, why are you installing a locked mailbox? I looked at the new box, then toward the empty street. How did you know? Whitney saw you. She could have stopped. She was heading somewhere. She was parked across from my house. He exhaled. What's going on? Somebody opened my mail. Probably the post office. They say it wasn't. Things get damaged. Whitney's email was added to my utility account. This time, his silence lasted longer. She probably helped you set it up. She didn't. Maybe Mom did years ago. Carolyn had never used Whitney's email for anything. I walked back into the kitchen and opened the pamphlet drawer. The brochure was still there. The business card was still tucked inside. Now there was writing on the back of it, a date and time. Thursday, 10 in the morning. Below that, in the same blue ink, were 4 words. Home visit confirmed with Whitney. I read those words 3 times. Then I took a picture of both sides of the card. My first impulse was to call Whitney. I wanted to ask why she'd arranged a home visit without telling me. Instead, I set the phone down. If I confronted her, she'd apologize for the misunderstanding. The visit would disappear, and I'd learn nothing. I already knew how she handled direct questions. So I called the number printed under Jennifer's name. A woman answered on the second ring. This is Jennifer Munoz. My name is Philip Horton. Her voice changed slightly. Oh, hello, Mr. Horton. You were expecting my call? I was told you might have questions. Who told you? She paused. I've been speaking with your family. Which member? Your daughter-in-law initially contacted me. That was the first clear answer I'd received. What did she hire you to do? Jennifer cleared her throat. I wouldn't say hire. We had a preliminary consultation. Did she pay you? There was a consultation fee. Then I'd say hire is accurate. She waited a moment before responding. Your family has some concerns about your current living arrangement. What concerns? I think that's best discussed in person. You're scheduled to visit my house tomorrow. Yes, at 10. Who confirmed that appointment? Whitney did. She doesn't control my calendar. I understood she had spoken with you. She hadn't. Jennifer went quiet. I could hear papers moving near her phone. We can cancel, she said. I looked at the brochure on my table. No, you can come. Are you sure? Yes. All right, it usually takes about an hour. What happens during that hour? We talk about your routines, your support system, and your goals. I may walk through the home with you. It helps identify any safety concerns. Are you a doctor? No. A nurse? No, but I've worked with older adults for many years. Do you diagnose people? Absolutely not. Do you provide written reports? Her answer took too long. I provide recommendations when requested. Requested by the person you're visiting? Usually by the family. I wrote that down. Jennifer said, Mr. Horton, I'm not coming to judge you. Good. Thursday at 10. I hung up and found one of the yellow legal pads I kept in the desk. I wrote the date at the top. Below it, I listed the pamphlet, the opened mail, the utility account, and Jennifer's appointment. I included times where I knew them. For 36 years, I'd kept daily job notes the same way. If a contractor argued about a delay, I didn't rely on memory. I had the weather, delivery times, and equipment hours written down. That habit had settled plenty of expensive arguments. I wasn't preparing an argument yet. I was making sure nobody could tell me later that I'd imagined things. I called Whitney around 6. She answered from her car. Hi, Philip. Are you coming by tomorrow? For what? You tell me. There was a rustling sound, then silence. Is this about Jennifer? Who's Jennifer? She didn't answer. I let the silence sit. Finally, she said, the consultant. You made an appointment for her to enter my house. She's very nice. That wasn't my question. I was going to tell you. When? Tonight, actually. I checked the clock. It was 6:12. All right, I said. She sounded surprised. All right, what? She can come. Oh, good. That single word carried more relief than it should have. Will you be here? I asked. I don't think that's necessary. Does Shane know? Yes. Was this his idea? We made the decision together. That sounded polished. Shane rarely described anything as a decision together. What are you expecting her to find? Nothing? Then why pay her? Whitney lowered her voice. Your reaction lately has been concerning. My reaction to what? To help. I wrote that sentence on the pad. She continued. You've become suspicious. You're putting locks on things. You're interrogating people over a damaged envelope. Someone accessed my utility account. I updated the email months ago when you had trouble logging in. I've never logged in. You asked me to help. No, I didn't. She made a tired sound. This is what I mean. I didn't argue. I didn't remind her that the utility company could probably see when the address changed. I wanted to hear what she'd say next. She said, just be honest with Jennifer. Don't try to perform. Perform what? You know what I mean. I don't. Don't make everything seem perfect because you're embarrassed. I looked around my kitchen. One coffee cup sat in the drying rack. My grocery list was held to the refrigerator with a magnet from a plumbing supplier. A bowl of peaches rested near the window. Nothing was perfect. Everything worked. I'll see her tomorrow, I said. After the call, I locked the legal pad inside my desk. The next morning, I got up at my usual time. I watered the roses, ate 2 eggs, and checked the newspaper. I didn't clean for Jennifer. I didn't leave dirty dishes around to prove I lived normally either. I wasn't going to turn my home into an exhibit. At 9:45, I put my medications inside the bathroom cabinet. There were only 3. Blood pressure, cholesterol, and an anti-inflammatory I used when my right knee acted up. I usually kept them beside the kitchen sink. After Jennifer asked about assessing the home, I decided she didn't need labels containing my prescription numbers. At 9:58, a silver Subaru stopped at the curb. Jennifer stepped out carrying a leather folder. She wore tan pants, flat shoes, and a green blouse. Her hair was pulled back, and her smile appeared before she reached the porch. She looked like someone arriving to discuss window treatments. Mr. Horton, that's me. She held out her hand. Jennifer Munoz. Thank you for meeting with me. You're on time. I try to be. I let her inside. She stopped in the entryway and looked toward the living room. Her eyes moved across the furniture, the hallway, and the stairs. It wasn't casual looking. She was counting space. Lovely home, she said. My wife did most of it. Whitney mentioned that you're widowed. She mentions a lot. Jennifer gave a small laugh, though I hadn't made a joke. We sat at the kitchen table. She placed her folder between us and pulled out a printed form. Before we start, I want you to understand this is informal. Then why the form? It helps guide the conversation. Will you give me a copy? If you'd like one, I would. She wrote something at the top. Can you tell me your full name? I looked at her. You used it on the porch. It's a standard question. Philip Andrew Horton. And your date of birth? I told her. She asked whether I knew the current date. I answered. She asked who the president was, what city we were in, and how long I'd lived in the house. What does this have to do with senior living? I asked. These questions help me understand your orientation. Orientation is a medical word. It's also an everyday word, not the way you're using it. She set down her pen. Would you prefer we stop? No? Keep going. That seemed to bother her. She asked me to describe a normal day. I told her about the garden, breakfast, errands, and weekly breakfast with Dale. Who is Dale? A friend? How old is he? Old enough to order his own breakfast. She smiled again. I didn't. Her questions moved toward money. Did I pay my own bills? Had I missed any payments? Did anyone have authority over my accounts? Was the house mortgaged? Did I understand what a trust was? That last one confirmed what I'd begun suspecting. Jennifer hadn't come to discuss meals or landscaping. Why are you asking about my trust? Whitney said your home may be held in one. That isn't a safety concern. It can affect available options. What options? Selling, transferring, or using the property to fund care. I haven't asked for care. No, but planning early gives families more choices. Whose choices? She folded her hands over the form. Everyone's. No, the house isn't everyone's. Jennifer looked down and wrote something. What did you write? Mr. Horton, if you challenge every question, this won't be productive. I'm answering your questions. You're avoiding mine. Her face tightened. That was the first moment her pleasant expression slipped. She turned the page. Have you had any falls? No. Have you left the stove on? No. Have you gotten lost while driving? No. Any recent trouble remembering appointments? No. Whitney mentioned a missed dental appointment. I moved it. Why? My hygienist was out sick. The office moved everyone. Jennifer stopped writing. Do you know her name? My hygienist? Yes. Claire. She made another note. Have you recently accused anyone of taking your belongings? No. Your mail? I said somebody opened it. Do you know who? No. Do you believe Whitney did it? I believe her email was added to my account. That wasn't my question. It's the answer I can prove. Jennifer studied me for a moment. Then she asked to see the rest of the house. We started in the living room. She checked the distance between furniture. She asked whether I ever tripped over the rug Carolyn had bought in Santa Fe. In the hallway, she tested a smoke detector without asking. It chirped loudly. It works, I said. That's good. It worked before you tested it. In the bathroom, she opened the cabinet. I reached past her and closed it. Please don't open cupboards. I was checking medication storage. You can ask. Where do you keep your prescriptions? In a safe place. She wrote something else. We went into the bedroom. She looked at the made bed, the lamp, and Carolyn's photograph on the dresser. Do you still keep your wife's clothing? She asked. No. How long did it take you to remove it? I stared at her. What does that measure? Grief can complicate transitions. My grief isn't available for your report. She lowered her folder. I'm not trying to upset you. You're walking through my bedroom writing judgments for someone who didn't tell me you were coming. I explained that Whitney believed you knew, and now you know I didn't. She nodded once. We returned to the kitchen. Through the back window, she noticed the roses. Is that the garden Whitney mentioned? What did she say? That maintaining it has become difficult. It hasn't. It's quite large. It's 40 feet of fence. Jennifer opened the back door and stepped onto the patio. I followed. She photographed the garden with her phone. I held out my hand. Delete that. It's only for my notes. You didn't ask. She tapped the screen. There. Deleted. I couldn't verify that, but I made a note mentally. She walked along the patio, studying the hose and tools. Some of these bushes look unmanaged, she said. They're between blooms. I'm not a gardener, I can tell. That earned a genuine reaction. Her mouth opened, then closed. We went back inside. She sat at the table and placed the form inside her folder. What will you tell Whitney? I asked. That we met. What else? I'll explain that you're resistant to discussing alternatives. Will you tell her I answered every question? Yes. Will you tell her you found no safety problems? I'm not qualified to make that determination. You were qualified enough to look for them. She slipped her pen into the folder. I may recommend a formal assessment. By whom? A physician, occupational therapist, or geriatric care manager. What exactly caused that recommendation? Your family's concerns combined with your unwillingness to accept support. I leaned back. What support did you offer? She started to answer, then stopped. I continued. You asked about my money. You opened my bathroom cabinet. You photographed my garden. You're reporting to the person who paid you. Whitney is worried about you. Then why didn't she come? Jennifer stood and picked up her bag. I think we should end here. I agree. At the front door, I asked for the copy she'd promised. She said she needed to complete her notes first. Email it to me today. I'll see what I can provide. You already said I could have it. I said I'd provide appropriate material. That changed quickly. She stepped onto the porch. Mr. Horton, I hope you'll consider that your family may be acting out of love. I'll consider it when they start acting honestly. She walked to her car without replying. I watched until she drove away. Then I returned to the kitchen and wrote everything down. I included every question I could remember. I recorded when she opened the cabinet and when she photographed the roses. At 11:37, Whitney called. I didn't answer. At 11:42, Shane called. I answered him. What happened with Jennifer? He asked. She left. She said you were hostile. She called you already? She called Whitney. That was fast. Dad, why couldn't you just talk to her? I did. You wouldn't let her see your medication. She opened a private cabinet. She was checking whether things were organized. Why? Because people forget doses. Which dose have I forgotten? He didn't answer. I asked, what exactly do you think is wrong with me? It's not one thing. Name two. Dad. Name one. He sighed. You've been different since Mom died. Your mother died 5 years ago. That's what I mean? You've been alone a long time. Living alone isn't a diagnosis. Nobody said it was. Jennifer asked me the date and president. She was being thorough. Did you know she would ask about my trust? Silence. I didn't tell her to, he said. That wasn't my question. I have to get back to work. Shane, did you ask her to evaluate whether I could manage my finances? No. Did Whitney? You need to talk to her. He hung up. That was the small confirmation I needed. Shane knew about the visit. He knew it wasn't a casual tour. He still couldn't tell me what I had supposedly done wrong. I called Jennifer's number again. It went to voicemail. This is Philip Horton. Do not release any assessment, photograph, note, or personal information about me. I did not authorize you to collect it. Please send me a copy of everything from today. I wrote down the time. Then I called Dr. Joseph Silva's office. Joseph had been my primary doctor for nearly 20 years. He knew my blood pressure history, my knee, and the year I finally stopped pretending I didn't need glasses. The receptionist offered me an appointment 3 weeks away. I need something sooner. Is this an emergency? No. What's the concern? I want a complete cognitive evaluation. She paused. Are you experiencing memory problems? Someone else is claiming I am. That got me an appointment the following Monday. I arrived 15 minutes early with my medication list and legal pad. Joseph met me in the examination room after his nurse checked my vitals. He sat on the rolling stool. What's happening, Phil? My daughter-in-law hired someone to assess me without telling me. His eyebrows lifted. What kind of assessment? I gave him Jennifer's card. He read both sides. Did she identify herself as medical staff? No. She asked medical questions. I explained the pamphlet, mail, utility account, and visit. Joseph listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, Have you noticed any changes yourself? No. Getting lost? Missing payments? Trouble finding common words? No. Any alcohol changes? New medications? Poor sleep? No. He nodded. Then we established facts. He performed a standard office screening first. He gave me words to remember. He had me draw a clock showing a certain time. I named objects, repeated sentences, subtracted numbers, and followed written instructions. Some questions felt childish. I answered them anyway. Afterward, he completed a neurological examination. He checked my balance, reflexes, eye movement, and grip strength. He ordered blood work to rule out common medical causes of confusion. When he finished, he placed his pen on the desk. Your screening score is normal. Normal for 71? Normal, period. Can you put that in writing? Yes, but I want the lab results first. I'll also document your ability to understand your medical and financial decisions. Can you make it formal? I can prepare a capacity letter and attach today's evaluation. I looked at the legal pad in my lap. How soon? If the labs are clear, by Friday. Can it be notarized? Joseph studied me. This has gone beyond a family disagreement, hasn't it? I don't know yet. That was the honest answer. I still didn't know what Whitney wanted. I didn't know whether Shane believed her or was simply trying to avoid another argument. I only knew somebody had started building a record about me, so I had decided to build the truthful one first. Joseph leaned toward his computer. Is your estate planning current? I thought it was. Thought. My trust name's Shane if I'd become incapable. Joseph turned from the screen. Then I'd speak with your attorney before Friday. I left his office shortly before noon. I sat in my truck with the air conditioner running and found Eric Nguyen's number. His assistant answered. I need to review my trust, I said. Is there a particular concern? I watched a couple cross the parking lot toward the medical building. Yes, I said. Someone has started asking who controls my house if I can't. The assistant found an opening that afternoon. Eric's office occupied the second floor of a brick building near downtown. Carolyn and I had first met him there in 2015. The furniture had changed since then, but the conference room still faced south toward the monument. Eric came in, carrying a thick blue folder. I pulled the original trust, he said. Tell me what changed. I handed him my legal pad. He didn't laugh at the notes. He read every page before asking questions. Do you still have the pamphlet? Yes, keep it. I wasn't planning to frame it. Just don't throw it away. He copied Jennifer's business card and returned the original. Then he opened the blue folder. The Horton Family Revocable Trust was printed across the first page. Carolyn's signature appeared below mine, near the back. Seeing it caught me harder than I expected. Eric noticed where I was looking. We can take a minute? I'm fine. He waited anyway. After a moment, he turned to the section naming successor trustees. You're currently the sole acting trustee, he said. You control the house and trust accounts. Shane takes over after your death or incapacity. How is incapacity decided? The document gives two routes. A court can make that finding. Otherwise, two licensed physicians must provide written opinions. So, Jennifer can't do it. No, she has no authority under this trust. Then why send her? She could supply observations supporting a petition. What kind of petition? Guardianship, conservatorship, or both? I knew the words, but not the practical difference. Eric explained it simply. A guardian could make personal decisions for someone. A conservator could manage money and property. Families often requested both when claiming an older relative couldn't manage alone. And if a court agrees, I asked, your existing trust names Shane to step in. He could control the trust property, including the house. Could he sell it? As successor trustee, yes, if the sale met his legal duties. Could he borrow against it? Potentially, yes. I looked again at Carolyn's signature. She and I had named Shane because he was our son. We hadn't imagined him standing silently while someone inspected our home. Eric folded his hands. Has Shane threatened a court filing? No. Has Whitney? No. Then we shouldn't get ahead of the facts. She arranged an assessment without my permission. I agree that's serious. She accessed my utility account. That's also serious. But suspicion isn't proof of a larger plan. I appreciated that answer. He wasn't feeding my fear. He was telling me where the edge of the facts ended. What do you recommend? First, finish the medical evaluation. Second, change every account password. Third, revoke any old financial authorizations you no longer want active. Old authorizations? When you formed the trust, did Shane receive copies? I believe so. Did any bank receive a certificate naming him as successor? Probably. That doesn't make him trustee today. Still, outdated paperwork causes confusion. Eric turned several pages. There's another issue. Your durable power of attorney also names Shane. I'd forgotten that document. What can he do with it? Right now, nothing. It only activates after incapacity. The language matches the trust, so everything points toward Shane. That was your intention in 2015. It isn't my intention today. Eric looked directly at me. Are you asking to change it? The question felt heavier than it should have. Replacing a name on paper sounded simple. Replacing my son's name didn't. I'm asking what keeps the house under my control. As long as you have capacity, amending the trust does. Who replaces him? Someone independent. Preferably someone financially experienced and willing to serve. I thought of Dale. Eric seemed to read the answer in my face. Don't name anyone without asking them first. I know. Also, don't use this as punishment. The person should be selected because they're reliable. I know that too. My phone vibrated against the table. An email had arrived from Jennifer. The subject line read, Home Visit Follow-Up. I opened it. Jennifer thanked me for my time and attached a 2-page summary. She called it preliminary and non-clinical. Then she wrote that I displayed guarded behavior, resistance to support, and heightened suspicion toward family members. She mentioned my refusal to show medication. She did not mention opening the cabinet without permission. She wrote that I challenged routine questions about orientation. She did not mention answering everyone correctly. She described the rose garden as requiring substantial maintenance. She recommended a formal evaluation of my ability to manage personal and financial matters. I passed the phone to Eric. He read the attachment twice. This is written carefully, he said. Carefully enough to be honest? No. Carefully enough to avoid making a diagnosis. Can they use it? They can attach almost anything to a petition. That doesn't make it persuasive. She says family members reported concerns. Plural, yes. Only Whitney had hired her. Shane admitted knowing about the visit, but he never described an actual incident. Eric asked me to forward the email. While I did, another message arrived. This one came from Peggy. Please call me. I'm worried, I showed Eric. Call her, he said. Don't argue. Find out what she's heard. I stepped into the empty reception area and called. Peggy answered immediately. What happened with that woman? Jennifer? She said you refused to cooperate. Who told you? Whitney sent me the report. That widened the problem. The report had been in my inbox for less than 10 minutes. Whitney already had it, and she had already sent it to Peggy. What did Whitney say with it? That you became agitated. I didn't. Jennifer wrote that you were guarded. That isn't the same thing. Philip, I'm not attacking you. I didn't say you were. You sound like you think everyone's against you. I closed my eyes. Jennifer's language was already doing its work. Did you read where I answered every question correctly? It doesn't say that. Exactly. Peggy became quiet. I asked, what concerns did Whitney report before the visit? She said you'd missed appointments. One dental appointment was rescheduled by the office. She said bills were piling up. Where? I don't know. Did she say she saw them? I assumed she had. Did you ask? No. I heard Peggy moving around her kitchen. She also said you accused her of tampering with your mail. I said my mail was opened. You see how that sounds? Like my mail was opened, like you're suspicious. I have the envelope, Peggy. She exhaled slowly. Shane says you won't accept help. What help has he offered? I don't know, Philip. That keeps being the answer. I'm trying to understand. Then ask me before you accept reports about me. She lowered her voice. Whitney said you might react this way. There it was. Any objection I made had already been described as evidence. I didn't raise my voice. Come over tonight, I said. Why? I'll show you the envelope, the brochure, and the utility account. I have plans. Tomorrow, then. I'll call you. She hung up without agreeing. When I returned to the conference room, Eric had printed Jennifer's report. She sent this to Whitney immediately, I said. Whitney forwarded it to Peggy. Who else? I don't know. Eric picked up his pen. This changes my advice. How? I still don't know their full intention, but they're creating a family record without involving you. We respond to that now. He outlined several documents. The first would amend the trust and replace Shane as successor trustee. The second would replace him under my financial power of attorney. The third would nominate an independent person if anyone ever sought control through court. All three should name the same person, I asked. It's cleaner. Dale. Speak with him before I draft anything final. I left Eric's office and drove straight to Dale's house. He lived near the university in a one-story place with a narrow front porch. His garage door was open. He was sitting inside, repairing a fishing reel under a work light. He looked up when I entered. You look like somebody canceled breakfast. I need to ask you something. He set down the reel. Coffee? No. That serious? Probably. We sat in folding chairs near his workbench. I showed him the report and explained the trust. Dale read slowly. His years at the bank had made him patient with small print. When he finished, he tapped the second page. This woman assessed your finances without seeing them. She asked whether the house was mortgaged. Why would a transition consultant need that? She said it affects options. It affects somebody's options. He handed the report back. What are you asking me to do? Eric says I should name an independent successor trustee, and you thought of me. You know banks, you know property. More importantly, you know how to say no. I've said no to you plenty. That's why you qualify. Dale leaned back and crossed his arms. Does Shane know you're considering this? No. Are you trying to scare him? No. Punish him? No. Then what are you trying to accomplish? If anyone says I'm incapable, I don't want the person making that claim controlling the result. Dale nodded once. That's reasonable. Will you do it? If Eric explains the duties and I'm comfortable, yes. I hadn't realized how tightly I was gripping the report until my hand relaxed. Dale asked whether I wanted him to call Shane. No, Whitney, no. Good. He stood and reached for the coffee pot anyway. This stays quiet until the documents are signed. That's what Eric said. He's smarter than you. He charges more. Dale poured 2 cups. While we drank, he asked about my bank accounts. I told him which ones belonged to the trust and which were personal. Check the contact information on every account, he said. Not just the balances, I will. Look for duplicate statements, added phone numbers, and address changes. You think someone's inside them? I think your utility account proves someone tried. The next morning, I visited my bank in person. The branch had changed since Dale retired, but one teller recognized me. She directed me to a desk near the back. I showed my identification and asked the banker to review every person attached to my accounts. Only my name appeared as the current authorized signer. That was good. Then she checked the contact details. Whitney's phone number appeared as a secondary number on my personal checking account. "Remove it," I said. The banker clicked through several screens. "Do you remember adding her?" "No." "It may have been entered during a prior service call." "When?" "I'm not seeing a timestamp." "Can you see whether she called?" "Not without a formal research request." "Make one." The banker printed a form. I signed it and requested access logs, copies of signature cards, and any recent changes. She asked whether I wanted a fraud alert. Yes. She added a note requiring in-person verification for withdrawals above $5,000. She also established a verbal password for telephone inquiries. Before leaving, I asked about the trust accounts. Those records listed Shane as successor trustee. "Does that give him access now?" "No," she said. "He's not an acting trustee." "Would an employee know the difference?" She looked uncomfortable. "They should." That wasn't my question. She printed a current account certification for me. When I reached home, Shane's truck was parked in my driveway. He stood on the porch holding the old spare key. The new mailbox was open. I got out slowly. "What are you doing?" He removed an envelope and held it up. "Checking your mail." "Why?" "Whitney said you've been missing things." She said that after somebody opened my mail. His jaw tightened. "Dad, can we not do this out here? Put the envelope back. It's from your insurance company. I can read. I know you can." "Then put it back." He returned the envelope and locked the box. I held out my hand for the key. He stared at it. "You gave me this years ago." "For emergencies. This is an emergency." "No, it isn't. You're changing accounts. Peggy says you called her angry. Jennifer says you're paranoid. I'm standing here asking for my key. Whitney thinks we should start handling the bills. What do you think?" He looked toward the street. "I think it would take pressure off you." "What pressure?" "All of this." I kept my hand out. After several seconds, he placed the key in my palm. "Dad, you're making people nervous. People are entering my accounts and opening my mail. Nobody's stealing from you. I didn't say they were. Then why are you acting like this?" "Because you're holding my insurance letter." He looked down at the open mailbox. For a moment, he seemed embarrassed. Then his phone rang. Whitney's name appeared on the screen. Shane answered before stepping away. "Yes," he said. "I'm here now." He listened, glanced toward me, and lowered his voice. "No, he won't agree." I couldn't hear her response. Shane walked to his truck. Before getting in, he said, "We're going to have to talk about this as a family. Then talk to me first." He closed the door without answering. That afternoon, Eric called. He had prepared the amendments. Dale had already spoken with him and agreed to serve. "We can execute everything Friday," Eric said. "Your doctor's letters should be ready then, too." "Good. There's one more thing. Jennifer copied Whitney and Shane on her full report. I expected that. She also copied someone named Rodney Robbins. I knew the name, of course. Whitney's brother sold real estate. "What does Rodney have to do with my medical condition?" I asked. Eric let the question sit for a second. "That," he said, "is something we need to find out." "Not by calling Rodney," I said. "I agree," Eric replied. "If he has a legitimate reason, it'll still exist after we secure your documents. What do you need from me? Come in Friday morning, bring identification and the original power of attorney from your files. I'll find it. Don't discuss the amendment with Shane yet. I wasn't going to. I'm not suggesting secrecy forever. I'm suggesting completion before conversation." That made sense to me. After we hung up, I found the power of attorney in Carolyn's old filing cabinet. She had labeled every folder in her neat block printing: insurance, medical, trust, vehicle titles. I ran my finger across the word trust. Then I removed what Eric needed and locked the cabinet. Friday morning, Dr. Silva called while I was eating breakfast. "The blood work is clean," he said. "Everything? Nothing that would explain cognitive trouble. Your thyroid, vitamin levels, blood count, and metabolic panel are normal. And the report? Finished." "What does it say?" that you demonstrated intact memory, judgment, attention, language, and decision-making ability. It also says you understand your property, finances, medical care, and estate planning. Can anyone argue with it? Anyone can argue with anything. That sounds comforting. It's accurate. My findings are clear, Phil. He had signed the letter that morning, his office manager had witnessed it, and a notary in the medical building had confirmed his signature. I drove there first. Joseph met me near the reception desk. He handed me a sealed envelope and a second copy for my records. "Keep the originals somewhere safe," he said. "It's going to Eric." "Good." He lowered his voice. "Has your family contacted me?" "Not that I know. My staff has instructions not to discuss you with anyone." "Thank you. You're entitled to privacy, whether you pass the screening or not." That sentence stayed with me. A person didn't have to prove perfect health before earning basic respect. I didn't say that aloud. I put the envelope inside my document case and left. Dale was already at Eric's office when I arrived. He wore a pressed shirt and had brought his reading glasses. Eric spent nearly an hour explaining the changes. The amended trust removed Shane as successor trustee and named Dale. It also required stronger written evidence before any future trustee could claim I was incapable. The new power of attorney named Dale, too. It didn't give him immediate control. It simply named him if I ever truly needed help later. A separate nomination told any future court that I preferred Dale over family members seeking appointment. Eric looked at me across the table. "These documents don't prevent someone from filing a petition." "I understand. They establish your decision while Dr. Silva finds you fully capable." "I understand that too." "Are you signing freely?" "Yes." "Has Dale pressured you?" Dale looked offended. "I bought him breakfast once." Eric waited for my answer. "No, Dale hasn't pressured me." "Do you understand that you can change this again?" "Yes." "Do you want to proceed?" I looked at Carolyn's name on the old trust beside my signature. Then I looked at the new page. Yes. 2 members of Eric's staff witnessed the signing. His notary checked our identification and stamped each required page. Eric placed Dr. Silva's letter behind the evaluation report. He marked the time received and added both to my client file. The date mattered to him. "The file now shows you were evaluated before these changes," he said. "It also shows I questioned you independently. Where are the originals? One stays in our secure records. You receive certified copies. Dale gets only what he needs." Dale nodded. "I don't need Philip's medical report. You may if your authority is challenged later, then seal it until that happens." Eric agreed. When we finished, I expected to feel guilty. Instead, I felt tired. Shane was still my son. Removing him from a document didn't change that. It did change what his silence could cost me. Dale and I left together. Outside, he stopped beside my truck. "You all right?" "Yes." "You don't look relieved. I didn't want to need you." That sounded worse than you meant it. "You know what I mean? I do." He placed his copy inside a plain envelope. "This stays in my safe. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm going to ask annoying questions." "You already do that for free." He smiled and walked toward his car. I returned home shortly after noon. An envelope from Jennifer waited inside the locked mailbox. It had been sent by certified mail. I signed for it at the post office that afternoon. Inside was a copy of her 2-page report and a short cover letter. She wrote that her private notes belonged to her business. She would not provide them without legal process. There was nothing from Whitney's initial consultation. I scanned the packet and emailed it to Eric. 20 minutes later, his assistant called. "Eric wants to know whether you authorized us to contact Ms. Munoz." "Yes." That afternoon, Eric sent Jennifer a formal records request. He didn't accuse her of anything. He asked for the intake information used to plan the visit, everyone who received the report, and any consent form bearing my signature. She responded before closing time. There was no consent form. Jennifer said Whitney had represented herself as coordinating services for me. She claimed she had relied on that representation in good faith. Attached was a 1-page intake sheet. Eric called and asked whether I could return to his office. I got there 15 minutes before 5. The intake sheet lay on the conference table. Whitney had completed it online before Jennifer's visit. My name, address, birth date, and marital status were listed at the top. Some answers were ordinary: lives alone, family nearby. No known mobility device. Then I reached the section titled Reason for Consultation. Whitney had written increasing confusion, resistance to help, unsafe home maintenance, possible financial mismanagement. None of it included a single example. Below that was a section called Anticipated Transition. Whitney had selected Memory Support Community. She had estimated the move within 30 to 90 days. I hadn't visited a community. I hadn't agreed to move. Dr. Silva had found no memory problem. The last section concerned property. Home owned free and clear was checked. Sale required to fund placement was also checked. Under real estate contact, Whitney had entered Rodney's full name, brokerage, phone number, and license information. The form had been completed before Jennifer ever met me. I read it again. They planned a sale before the assessment, I said. That appears to be what Whitney told Jennifer. So Jennifer wasn't deciding whether I needed to move. She may claim she was evaluating options. The option was already selected. Eric didn't disagree. Until then, I'd believed Whitney wanted control because she considered me incapable. I thought the house was part of that concern. The intake form reversed it. The house appeared to be the objective. My supposed confusion was the explanation attached afterward. I pointed to the 30 to 90-day estimate. Where would that deadline come from? I don't know. Does placement require selling a house that quickly? Not generally. Then why Rodney? That's the question. I sat back and looked through the window toward the parking lot. Can they sell without me? Not with the trust amended. Could they have sold under the old trust? Only if Shane became acting trustee, through a court finding. Yes, or 2 doctors. Yes, Jennifer isn't a doctor. No, but her observations could be used to justify seeking one. That explained the questions about dates and medications. It explained why normal disagreement became resistance. Eric tapped the intake form. This document is important, but it doesn't prove fraud. Families sometimes investigate housing before an older relative agrees. Do they usually assign their own realtor? No, I wouldn't say usually. Do they claim financial mismanagement without checking the finances? No. I asked for a certified copy. He printed one and stamped it as received in his office. The original electronic file remained stored with Jennifer's email. Before leaving, I called Jennifer from the conference room. She answered cautiously. Mr. Horton, I have the intake sheet. I assumed your attorney would share it. Why didn't you? It was provided by a third party. It contains my personal information. I understand. Did Whitney tell you I'd agreed to sell my house? She said the family was exploring a transition. That isn't what the form says. The form is designed to identify likely needs. She selected memory support before you assessed my memory. Jennifer paused. I didn't select it, but you accepted the appointment. Families often contact me first. Why was Rodney copied on your report? Whitney listed him as part of the planning team. What planning? Property disposition. I wrote the words down. Did you speak with Rodney? I had one brief call. Before visiting me? Yes. What did he ask? I can't discuss another client's communication. The communication was about my house. He asked general questions about timing. What timing? Jennifer's voice tightened. Preparing a residence for market after a senior transition. I looked at Eric. He was taking notes too. Did you tell him I needed memory care? No. I told him I hadn't met you. Did that stop the planning? I can't answer that. You just did. She ended the call. Eric added the time beside his notes. Send her a preservation notice, I said. I was already planning to. That required Jennifer to keep emails, forms, messages, and photographs connected to my visit. I asked whether the garden photographs still existed. We'll request confirmation, he said. I left with the intake sheet inside my document case. Instead of going home, I drove past Rodney's brokerage. It occupied a storefront near a shopping center. His photograph appeared in the window, beside several property listings. I didn't go inside. I wasn't sure what I would ask without showing him everything I knew. The following morning, Rodney called me. We had spoken at family gatherings, but he'd never called my phone directly. Philip, how are you? I'm well. I wanted to clear up some confusion. About what? Jennifer copied me on an email. I guess you had concerns. What was your role? Whitney asked me a couple general real estate questions. About my house? About older properties in your neighborhood. That sounds like my house. He gave a small laugh. I deal in values. People ask me things. What value did you give her? Nothing formal. What informal value? I'd have to pull comparable sales. Did you? I may have glanced at a few. When? I don't remember. You're a realtor. Don't you keep records? Not for casual family conversations. I carried the phone into the dining room and looked toward the roses. Did you photograph my property? No. Did you visit it? I've been to your house plenty of times. Recently? Another little pause. I drove by. Why? To get a sense of exterior condition. For a casual conversation? Rodney stopped sounding friendly. Philip, nobody's listing your house behind your back. I didn't ask that. Well, that's where you're going. Is there paperwork? No executed paperwork. The word executed caught my attention. I hadn't asked whether anything was signed. What unexecuted paperwork exists? You're twisting my words. I repeated them. Whitney's trying to help your family plan. I am my family. You know what I mean. No, Rodney, I'm discovering I don't. He breathed into the phone. Look, houses like yours need preparation. The roof's older, the kitchen's dated. Buyers will notice the landscaping. Did Whitney tell you to inspect my landscaping? It's visible from the street, not all of it. He didn't respond. Did you enter my yard? I asked. No. Did anyone give you a key? No. Did Shane? I said no. His answers were coming faster. I wrote each one down. Rodney said, I'm not discussing this anymore. That's fine. Talk to Whitney. I plan to let her talk first. He ended the call. That afternoon, a white envelope appeared on my front porch. It wasn't mailed. Inside was a printed market report for homes near Chipeta Avenue. Several recent sales were highlighted. Someone had written a price range across the top, $480,000 to $520,000. There was no name or note. I carried it inside with a clean cloth, mostly because I didn't know who had handled it. I photographed every page and placed it in a plastic sleeve. Then I called Dale. He came over within an hour. We sat at the kitchen table with the intake form and market report between us. Dale read them without speaking. Finally, he pointed to the estimated move window. 30 to 90 days is very specific. Eric said the same. Whitney's under some kind of deadline. For what? I don't know. He studied the highlighted sales. Did Rodney prepare this? There's no name. The formatting resembles brokerage software. You recognize it? I've seen similar reports with mortgage files. That was the first time anyone had connected the market report to lending. I asked what he meant. Property values get pulled when somebody's considering a loan, refinance, or sale. The house has no mortgage. I know. Could somebody borrow against it without me? Not legally. That wasn't exactly my question. Dale looked at the trust certification from my bank. Let me make 2 calls on Monday. To whom? People who understand how these files move. I don't want rumors spread. They won't be. He folded the market report and slid it back toward me. Don't call Whitney tonight. I wasn't going to. Good. Because whatever this is, the value of your house was being discussed before anyone bothered asking whether you wanted to leave it. Monday morning, Dale called before 8. Can you meet me at Eric's office? What did you find? Not over the phone. What time? 10. He hung up before I could ask anything else. When I arrived, Dale was already in the conference room. Eric sat beside him with a blank legal pad. Dale had brought no documents. That concerned me more than if he'd carried a box. He waited until the door was closed. I spoke with 2 people, he said. One worked with me years ago. The other knows Rodney's brokerage. Do they have proof? They have information. The proof has to come through proper channels. Eric nodded. Tell him exactly what you were told. Dale turned toward me. A home equity line application was submitted against your property. I looked at him. How much? $150,000. By whom? Whitney handled the application. At her lender? Yes. I waited for the rest. Dale continued. The borrower information identifies the Horton Family Revocable Trust. The file includes an old trust certification and outdated authorization paperwork. Whose authorization? Shane's name appears as successor trustee. He isn't trustee. We know that. Does the lender? The file was flagged because the documents don't establish present authority. No loan has funded. That mattered. Nobody had received the money. The house didn't have a new lien. Still, someone had submitted the application. When was it filed? I asked. Dale gave me the date. It was before Jennifer came to my house. It was also before Whitney claimed my reaction had become concerning. I looked at Eric. Can Dale's contact send us a copy? No, Eric said. Not without authorization, a subpoena, or formal discovery. Then how do we know it exists? Dale answered. My former colleague didn't open the file for me. The application had already reached an internal review queue. My name appeared in the amended certification when Eric sent notices Friday. Eric had notified the institution's holding trust accounts that Shane was no longer successor trustee. Dale's name replaced his. That update collided with the old paperwork in Whitney's loan file. The discrepancy had raised questions. Did Whitney use my signature? I asked. I wasn't told that she did, Dale said. I was told the application relies on the old authorization package. What does that mean in ordinary English? Eric answered. It may mean she presented Shane as someone who could act for the trust. It may mean she expected his authority to activate later. We don't know until we see the application. Could she have submitted it as preliminary? Possibly. Do preliminary applications request $150,000? They can. Do they include trust documents if someone wants the lender to take them seriously? I stood and walked to the window. The parking lot below was half full. A delivery driver carried boxes into the building next door. People were starting an ordinary Monday while I learned my house had been used in a loan application. Why would she do that before I was declared incapable? Dale answered carefully. Her office allows loan officers to build files while title and authority are being reviewed. She may have expected to supply the missing authority later. After Shane took over, that's how it looks. What happens to the money? A home equity line usually makes funds available to the borrower being the trust. Yes, and Shane would control the trust. If he became acting trustee under the old documents, I returned to the table. Does Shane know about the application? We don't know, Eric said. I thought about him standing beside my mailbox. He had looked embarrassed, not calculating. At the house, he'd repeated Whitney's words. He hadn't spoken like someone expecting $150,000. Don't assume he does, I said. I'm not assuming anything, Eric replied. Dale leaned forward. There's more. I sat down. The person connected to Rodney's brokerage confirmed that a pre-listing file exists for your address. What's a pre-listing file? Work prepared before an owner signs a listing agreement. Property details, estimated price, proposed commission, marketing notes. Is there an agreement? An unsigned one. Prepared by Rodney? Yes. When? Dale gave me another date. It came before Jennifer's visit, too. The loan file and sale paperwork both existed before anyone assessed me. I asked, can the brokerage send a copy? Not voluntarily, Eric said. It belongs to their file. Can Rodney list the house without my signature? No. Could Shane sign if he became trustee? Under the old trust, after incapacity, yes. That completed the outline. Whitney had started a loan against the house. Rodney had prepared to sell it. Then Jennifer came to create observations about my ability to live alone. The order made the purpose clear. Concern didn't lead them toward the property led them toward concern. I picked up the intake form again. 30 to 90 days. That wasn't an estimate of how quickly my health might change. It was a timetable for gaining control. What does Whitney get? I asked. Dale looked at Eric before answering. My contact said she's under pressure at work. What kind? Her production numbers are down. Her office tightened quotas this spring. And this application helps. A $150,000 line counts toward her loan production if it closes. That's enough to do all this? Probably not by itself. What else? Dale chose his words carefully. He's heard she's carrying substantial personal debt. From where? Credit cards and a second loan. I don't have records and I won't pretend I do. Eric wrote something. Workplace talk isn't evidence, he said. I know, Dale replied. But Philip asked for motive. I remembered several things I had dismissed. At Christmas, Whitney had complained that interest rates were destroying them. Shane told her to stop discussing money at dinner. She laughed and said everyone had debt. In March, she'd asked whether I planned to leave the house equally to anyone besides Shane. I told her the trust handled everything. A month later, she asked what senior care cost. I'd assumed her job exposed her to those conversations. Now, I understood why the answers mattered. And Rodney gets the listing commission, I said. Yes, Dale replied. What happens after the loan closes? I can only speculate. Do it. If Shane took control, the trust could draw on the line. The money could be described as funding your care, repairs, or transition expenses. Then the house could be sold through Rodney. The sale would repay the line, usually at closing, and the remaining money stays in the trust. Legally, yes, but controlled by Shane, yes. Whitney didn't need the house placed in her own name. She needed Shane placed in control. That was why she kept pushing him forward. She could guide every decision while he told himself he was helping me. It also explained why she wanted relatives concerned. A worried family looked better than one daughter-in-law seeking a loan. I asked Dale whether his contact knew the application status. Paused for documentation. Because Eric updated the successor information, that appears to be part of it. Will Whitney know? Soon, if she doesn't already. Eric put down his pen. She may respond by abandoning the application, or by accelerating the incapacity claim. Yes. Can we stop the file now? We can notify the lender that you dispute any application. That protects you, but it also tells Whitney you know. I want it stopped. We'll send notice today. What about Rodney? I'll notify the brokerage owner that no one is authorized to list, photograph, inspect, or market the property. Will that expose Dale's contacts? No. We already have the market report and intake sheet. Those justify the notice. Eric drafted both letters while I sat there. The lender's notice was simple. I was the current trustee. I had not requested a loan. No one else had authority to borrow against the house. The brokerage notice said the same about a sale. Eric sent them by email and certified mail. Then he looked at me. Do not confront Whitney with the application amount. Why? Because we need the actual file. Right now you have reliable information, but not admissible copies. How do we get them? If they file something in court, discovery gives us tools. Otherwise, we can explore a civil demand. So we wait, we protect the property and document what happens next. I disliked waiting. Still, I understood the difference between knowing and proving. On the drive home, Shane called. I let it ring once before answering. Are you busy tonight? He asked. No. Can I come by? Alone? He hesitated. Why does that matter? Because I asked. Yes, alone. He arrived shortly after 6 carrying a bag from a sandwich shop. We ate at the kitchen table. For several minutes, he talked about work. A delivery had arrived damaged. One employee had quit without notice. Then he set down his sandwich. Did you change the trust? The lender had notified Whitney quickly. What makes you ask? She got a call at work. About my trust? About some paperwork. What paperwork? She wouldn't explain it clearly. That sounded genuine. I kept my voice level. Did Whitney ask you to sign anything involving my house? No. Did Rodney? No. Have you discussed selling it? We've discussed what happens if you move. I haven't agreed to move. I know. Then why discuss a sale? Because the house would be empty. He rubbed his forehead. Dad, this is getting turned around. By whom? You know who? No. I want you to say it. He stared at the table. Whitney thinks you're shutting everyone out. Are you in debt? His head came up. What? You heard me. Everybody has debt. How much? That's between me and my wife. Does she need a large loan to keep her job? His expression changed. It wasn't guilt. It was confusion. What large loan? I watched him closely. You tell me. I don't know what you're talking about. Is Whitney behind on her quota? She's had a rough quarter. Is her job at risk? She says they're putting pressure on everybody. What about personal debt? Shane pushed his plate away. We had some expenses. The roof last year. Her cards got high. We're handling it. Did she ask me for money? No. Did she ask you to take control of my trust? She said we may have to. When? After Jennifer's visit. The loan application came before Jennifer's visit. Shane didn't know that. What exactly did she tell you? I asked. That you were hiding medication and making accusations. She said people with memory problems can seem normal for short periods. Did Jennifer say I have memory problems? She recommended an evaluation. I had one. He blinked. When? Monday. And? My doctor found no problem. Shane looked relieved for a moment. Then caution returned. Can we see the report? Why? So Whitney knows. Your wife isn't my doctor. She'll say one office test doesn't prove anything. She already has an answer prepared. Dad, I'm trying to be honest. Then be honest about this. Before Jennifer visited, did you believe I was incapable? No. Did you plan to sell my house? No. Did you authorize Rodney to prepare anything? No. His answers came without hesitation. I believed him. That didn't excuse what he had done. He had allowed Whitney to enter my accounts. He'd taken my mail from a locked box. He'd stood on my porch and called that an emergency. But he hadn't designed the scheme. Whitney had given him a frightened version of me, one piece at a time. Shane had accepted it because resisting her required more courage than doubting me. He stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. Did you remove me as trustee? You weren't trustee. You know what I mean. Yes. His face tightened. Who replaced me? I'm not discussing my documents tonight. That's my inheritance. No. It's my house. He looked away. Whitney said, you'd do this. What did she say? That you'd punish us. This isn't punishment. It feels like it. He left without saying goodbye. I locked the door behind him and returned to the kitchen. The market report remained inside its plastic sleeve. Jennifer's intake forms sat beneath it. Beside both were certified copies of the documents I'd signed with Eric. I poured one quiet glass of bourbon. I didn't raise it. I didn't make a speech to an empty room. I sat by the window and looked at Carolyn's roses. Whitney's whole purpose finally made sense. She needed a large loan for her quota. She needed access to money because of debt. Rodney wanted the sale. Neither could touch the house while I controlled the trust. So they needed me declared incapable, and they needed Shane ready to replace me. The pamphlet had introduced the answer. The open mail tested access. Jennifer supplied the language. The family supplied witnesses. The only part they hadn't completed was the finding that made their paperwork useful. I finished the bourbon, washed the glass, and called Eric. Whitney knows the old trust no longer works, I said. Yes. She'll need another route. Yes. What happens if they file? We answer with documents. And the loan application? We force it into the record. I looked at the legal pad where I'd written every date. Then from now on, I said, we let them put every claim in writing. Eric didn't answer immediately. Then he said, that means you stop explaining yourself by phone. I understand. Save every message. Forward emails without editing them. If someone comes to the house, write down when they arrived. I've already been doing that. I know. Keep doing it. On Tuesday, his assistant called me back to the office. Eric had arranged the documents across the conference table in date order. Jennifer's intake sheet came first, then her report, then my full medical evaluation, the notarized capacity letter, and the trust amendment. The lender and Rodney's brokerage had both acknowledged receiving Eric's notices. The lender confirmed that no lien had been placed against the house. The brokerage confirmed there was no active listing. Eric handed me a fresh title report. The house remains titled to the Horton Family Revocable Trust, he said. No new mortgage, deed of trust, or transfer has been recorded. So, the application didn't move money. No. Could it still? Not after our notice. The lender would have to ignore a direct ownership dispute. That would be foolish. Very. I read the title report anyway. The property description meant little to me, but the trust's name appeared clearly. Eric turned to Dr. Silva's letter. Now, we verify the medical record. I watched him sign my copy. I'm not questioning that. I want the file ready to survive questions. He called Joseph on speakerphone. Joseph answered from his office. I have Philip here, Eric said. With his permission, I'd like to confirm several details. You have my permission, I said. Eric asked when I requested the appointment. Joseph gave the date. Did any family member refer him? No. Did anyone attend the evaluation? No. Did Philip tell you what conclusion to reach? He asked for a complete evaluation. He did not ask for a predetermined result. Did you observe signs of cognitive impairment? No. Can he understand financial and property decisions? Yes. Can he understand and amend a trust? In my medical opinion, yes. Were the laboratory results normal? Yes. Is your letter dated the day you completed your findings? Yes. Was your signature notarized? Yes. Eric looked at me. Anything you want clarified? I leaned toward the phone. Joseph, if someone brought you Jennifer's report, would it change your opinion? I've read it. That surprised me. When? You authorized Eric to send it yesterday. I looked at Eric. He nodded. Joseph continued. It describes disagreement and guarded behavior. Those aren't diagnoses. Nothing in that report changes my findings. What about refusing to show medication? You're allowed to refuse access to a bathroom cabinet. Eric wrote Joseph's answer on his pad. "Would you testify to this if necessary?" he asked. "Yes." After the call, Eric printed a written summary of the conversation. I read it and signed a statement confirming I had authorized the discussion. Then he showed me the trust amendment again. It was 11 pages long. I had already read every page before signing, but he went through it once more. "You remain the current trustee," he said. "Dale has no authority while you're capable and serving. Correct. If you resign voluntarily, Dale steps in." "Yes." "If a court determines incapacity, Dale steps in." "Yes." "Does Shane have any authority under this amendment?" "No." "Does Whitney?" "No." "Can Rodney list the house?" "No." "Can anyone borrow against it without your signature?" "No." "Do you want any of those answers changed?" "No." Eric closed the document. "That interview stays in my notes. You think someone will claim I didn't understand?" "I think Jennifer already implied it." He had also prepared an updated statement of authority for the property records. It didn't place my medical information in public view. It simply identified me as current trustee and Dale as the named successor under the amended trust. We drove separately to the Mesa County Clerk and Recorder's office. I signed the statement before a clerk. Eric submitted it with a certified trust summary. The clerk stamped the recording information on our copy. That gave the change a public date tied to the house. Anyone checking title after that point would see that Shane was not the person authorized to act for the trust. Outside, Eric handed me the stamped copy. "Keep this with your certified trust documents. Does recording it tell Whitney? Not directly, but a title search will show it. Rodney may check. He probably will." That afternoon, I visited the bank again. The same banker met with me near the back. She had received Eric's amendment and verified the notary information. She removed the old successor trustee certification from active use. It remained archived, but it could no longer be mistaken for current authority. Dale's name replaced Shane's in the successor field. The banker printed a confirmation. "What about the research request?" I asked. She opened another screen. "We found 2 telephone contacts in the last month." "From whom?" "One caller provided your account number and address. She asked about adding online access. Did she identify herself?" "The note says, daughter-in-law. I don't have a daughter." "She said daughter-in-law. Did the employee give her access?" "No." The caller couldn't provide the security answer. And the second call? Someone asked what documents a successor trustee would need. Did they leave a name? No. "When were these calls?" She gave me the dates. The first came before my utility bill arrived opened. The second came 2 days after Jennifer's visit. "Can I have that in writing?" "I can provide the service notes with employee information removed." She printed them. "Your account now requires in-person verification," she said. "No telephone changes will be processed." I added the pages to my folder. The calls didn't identify Whitney by name. Still, they showed the same sequence. Someone gathered access details before anyone formally questioned my capacity. I took the documents to Eric. He copied them and placed them in the file. His physical file had become thick enough to need a second fastener. He also kept encrypted electronic copies, including the original email attachments and their dates. "What exactly do we have now?" I asked. He counted each item without making it sound grand. "We have proof you requested your own evaluation. We have Dr. Silva's findings. We have a notarized capacity letter. We have the amended trust, witnessed and signed while you were found capable. We have a recorded statement confirming your authority over the house. And the other side? We have the intake sheet planning a sale before Jennifer met you. We have her report. We have account contacts and the market report. We don't have the loan application, not yet. Or Rodney's agreement, not yet." I disliked those last 2 words. Eric understood why. "The capacity letter and amendment don't depend on those files," he said. "They stand on their own. Could Whitney say I changed everything because I was paranoid?" "She can say it. Dr. Silva found your judgment intact after hearing the same facts. Could she find another doctor?" "She can ask. You don't have to submit to an ambush evaluation. What if a court orders one? Then we cooperate." I looked at the sealed copy of Joseph's report. "We don't show this to them yet?" "No. You're not required to provide private medical records because Whitney demands them." "What about Shane?" "That's your choice. I don't want him preparing an answer before he sees the truth. Then keep it private." I drove home with 3 sets of documents. One stayed in my locked filing cabinet. Dale took another for his safe. Eric kept the originals and a certified court-ready set. I also made a list of every institution connected to the house: insurance company, utility provider, county records, bank, and trust accounts. Each received written notice that only I could make changes. The insurance company removed Whitney's email. They couldn't explain when it had been added. The electric company sent written confirmation that my account now used my email and verbal password. I replaced the lock on the side door because Shane still had an old house key. I didn't enjoy doing it. I enjoyed the possibility of an unannounced entry less. On Thursday evening, Peggy came by. She brought the empty peach basket I'd returned weeks earlier. Nobody drives across town just to return an empty basket. I let her in. She stood in the kitchen and looked around. "Everything's clean," she said. "It usually is." I didn't mean it like that. "How did you mean it?" She placed the basket on the counter. "Whitney said you weren't keeping up. Does this look unkept?" "No. I put water on for coffee." Peggy watched me measure grounds. "Did you really change the locks?" "Yes," Shane told me. "Shane used an emergency key to take mail from my locked box. He was checking on you. He could have knocked." She sat at the table. "What did the doctor say?" "I'm healthy." "Did he test your memory?" "Yes." "And?" "He found no problem." Her shoulders loosened slightly. "Why not show Whitney? Why does she need my medical file? To put this to rest." She started it. Peggy looked toward the hallway. "She says you changed your estate documents." "My estate documents are private." "That sounds like yes." I poured the coffee. Peggy wrapped both hands around her cup. "Philip, nobody wants your house. Then everyone can stop planning its sale." Her eyes lifted. "What sale?" I showed her Jennifer's intake sheet, but not the medical letter or amendment. She read the marked boxes. "Whitney filled this out?" "Yes." She may have been guessing. She selected a realtor. "Rodney is family. He's also paid when houses sell." Peggy read the page again. "I don't understand." "Neither did I at first." "Have you shown Shane?" "No." "Why not?" "Because he needs to tell me what he knows without seeing my answers." She didn't like that. Families shouldn't investigate each other. Tell Whitney. Peggy stayed nearly an hour. Before leaving, she said, "Shane wants everyone together for your birthday." My birthday wasn't supposed to be a business meeting. He thinks talking with the family present will keep things calm. "Did he say what he wants to discuss?" "Your living arrangements?" I opened the front door. "My living arrangements are that I live here. Will you let them come?" I thought about Eric's instruction. Let them put every claim in words. Yes. Peggy looked relieved. The following morning, Whitney sent an email to me, Shane, Peggy, and several relatives. She wrote that the family needed a loving, structured discussion about my safety. She said I had rejected professional guidance, restricted family access, and made abrupt financial changes. Near the end, she included one sentence in bold. "If Philip continues refusing an independent competency evaluation, we may need court guidance for his own protection." I forwarded the email to Eric. He called within 5 minutes. "Don't respond," he said. "I won't. We now have written notice of what they may do. And they still don't know about Joseph's letter. No? Or the recorded amendment? Rodney can find that if he checks. Let him." I printed Whitney's email and placed it behind the service notes from the bank. Then I marked the date on my legal pad. By the time my birthday arrived, every document protecting my house had been signed, verified, recorded, and filed with Eric. All I had to do was listen while my family explained why they believed none of it should count. They arrived shortly after 3 on Saturday. Peggy brought the cake. Martin carried folding chairs from his car. Shane arrived with 2 bags of ice and avoided being alone with me. Whitney came last. She walked straight into the kitchen and began moving dishes. "You'll want people sitting in one area," she said. I wasn't planning assigned seating. It'll make the conversation easier. There wasn't supposed to be a conversation. She placed napkins beside the cake. "Shane told you." He told Peggy. He knew she'd tell you. That was how Shane handled difficult subjects. He passed them through someone softer. I let Whitney arrange the room. If I objected, she would call it agitation. If I agreed, she would call it cooperation. So I carried coffee outside to Martin and asked about his truck. By 4, 14 relatives had gathered inside the house. They were all adults who had known me for years. Some lived nearby, others saw me only at holidays. Whitney had spoken with most of them before they arrived. I could tell from the way they watched me. They noticed when I remembered who wanted coffee. They noticed when I carried plates. They noticed when I used a knife to cut the string around a bakery box. Ordinary actions had become little tests. Peggy caught my eye once and looked away. After we ate, Shane stood beside the kitchen table. He rubbed his thumb along his phone, then cleared his throat. "Dad, we need to discuss something while everybody's here." "What do you need to discuss?" He looked around the room. "Your ability to keep managing alone." The talking stopped. Whitney sat near him with her purse against her chair. Shane continued. "There have been memory issues, problems with bills and appointments. You're locking people out when they try to help. Which bill did I fail to pay? This isn't an interrogation. You brought 14 relatives into my kitchen. It feels like one." Martin shifted in his chair. Peggy held a paper plate near her waist. Whitney said, "We're not putting you on trial." "Good, then someone can answer." Shane looked at her. She gave him a slight nod. He said, "Jennifer believes you need a formal competency evaluation." "Jennifer isn't a doctor. She's an experienced consultant," Whitney replied. "What did she find?" "Resistance, paranoia, and unsafe isolation." "Did she find an unpaid bill?" "That's not how an assessment works." "Did she find expired food?" "No one said anything about food." "A fall? No. A forgotten name?" Whitney's voice sharpened. "You're reducing this to tricks. I'm asking for examples." Peggy stepped forward. "Philip, the locked mailbox worried people." "Why?" "Because you thought someone was taking your mail. Someone opened it. Did you see them?" "No." Whitney lifted both hands. "That's exactly the concern." I turned toward the relatives. "Has anyone here seen me confused?" Nobody answered immediately. One cousin said, "We don't see you every day." "Then what were you told?" Whitney stood. "This isn't productive. It's the first honest question today." She moved beside Shane. "We've all noticed changes since Carolyn died. You've isolated yourself in this house. You refuse updates. You're attached to things you can't maintain." My eyes moved toward the dining room window. Carolyn's roses were visible behind Whitney. She followed my gaze. "That whole side is overgrown anyway," she said. "Before any sale, those bushes will probably need to be cleared." There it was. I asked, "What sale?" "The house, eventually." "Who decided it was for sale?" "No one has decided anything. You just discussed clearing the garden before it." She looked toward Shane. He took over. "If you move somewhere safer, the house would need to be sold." "What makes this house unsafe?" "The stairs, the maintenance, living alone." "My bedroom is downstairs. That's not the point." "Then say the point." His face reddened. "The point is, you can't manage your affairs anymore." Nobody moved. My own son had finally said it directly. I looked at him. "Do you believe I'm unfit?" He struggled with the word. "I believe you're not seeing things clearly." "Do you intend to ask a court?" Whitney answered for him. "Yes." Several relatives reacted at once. Peggy whispered, "Whitney?" Martin said, "That seems pretty far." Whitney raised her voice. "We've tried everything else." "You left a pamphlet," I said. "We offered options." "You sent a stranger into my bedroom. She was there to help." "You accessed my accounts. I updated contact information." "You arranged a realtor." "Rodney wasn't at the gathering." Whitney still glanced toward the front door. He answered general questions. "What are you asking the court to give Shane?" She pressed her lips together. Shane said, "Guardianship, if necessary, and control of the trust for your protection. The house, too." "Dad, stop making it about the house. It's happening inside the house." Whitney stepped between us. "A guardianship and conservatorship would let Shane protect your finances, arrange proper care, and handle the property responsibly." That was the full commitment, not concern, not information, not planning for later. They wanted legal control. I asked Shane, "Will the petition request authority to sell?" He rubbed both hands over his face. "If that's what your care requires." "Will Rodney list it?" "I don't know. Did you ask him?" "No." Whitney said, "Rodney understands the local market. There's nothing wrong with using family. Does he have paperwork ready?" Her expression held steady. "I'm not discussing hypothetical paperwork." I nodded. "Then file whatever you intend to file." Peggy stared at me. "Philip, maybe don't say that." "Why?" "Because they'll think you don't understand how serious this is." "I understand exactly what they said." Whitney watched me closely. You're agreeing to an evaluation? No. Then you leave us no choice. You've had choices from the beginning. Shane stepped away from the table. Dad, we don't want to fight. You announced guardianship during my birthday. We wanted witnesses. The honesty of that answer surprised even Whitney. Nobody touched the cake after that. The gathering broke apart in small, uncomfortable departures. Martin shook my hand before leaving. 2 cousins hugged me and said nothing. Peggy remained near the porch. I didn't know they planned to file, she said. You knew they wanted a family meeting? That isn't the same thing. No? She looked through the open door toward Shane. Would a doctor's evaluation settle this? Ask Whitney. I'm asking you. I've already answered enough private questions in public. Peggy left with the empty cake carrier. Shane and Whitney were last. At the curb, Shane turned back. You can still avoid court. How? Let us see your medical records. Restore account access. Meet with another evaluator. Chosen by Whitney, agreed on by everyone. My doctor isn't selected by committee. Whitney opened the passenger door. Then we'll let a judge decide. They drove away. I went inside and locked the door. The kitchen smelled like coffee, frosting, and the chicken Martin had brought. Crumpled napkins filled the trash. A stack of unused birthday plates sat on the counter. I carried the remaining cake to the refrigerator. Then I wrote down every statement I remembered. On Monday morning, Eric's office received a copy. By Wednesday, a process server came to my porch. He confirmed my name and handed me a thick envelope. Whitney and Shane had filed in the probate division of Mesa County Combined Court. They requested guardianship and conservatorship, naming Shane for both roles. The petition said I suffered from worsening confusion, paranoia, and impaired judgment. It described the locked mailbox as irrational behavior. It described changing my trust as sudden financial instability. They asked for authority to manage my accounts, choose my living arrangement, and sell property for my care. Jennifer's report was attached. So was a statement signed by Whitney. Peggy had signed a shorter statement. Hers said she had become concerned after hearing family reports and speaking with me. She admitted she hadn't witnessed confusion herself. Shane's statement said he believed I could no longer protect my interests. It did not mention a loan or listing agreement. I called Eric before the process server reached his car. I've been served. Bring everything here. He read the petition that afternoon. They filed for an emergency financial order too, he said. What does that do? They're claiming you may move or hide assets because you changed the trust. I changed the trust to stop them taking assets. I know. Will the judge know? Not until we respond. The emergency request had gone to Judge Andrea Francis without a hearing. 2 days later, she issued a narrow temporary order. The trust's financial accounts were frozen pending review. The house couldn't be sold or borrowed against. That protected the property, but I also couldn't move trust money or pay larger expenses from those accounts. A full hearing was set 60 days away. The freeze became real at the garden center. I tried buying fertilizer and replacement irrigation tubing with the trust debit card. The register declined it. A young cashier tried again. Still declined, she said. I used my personal card and carried the supplies outside. It was a small purchase. I had enough money elsewhere. Still, standing in that parking lot made the order feel different. My son's petition had reached into my wallet. At Eric's office, we prepared the formal response. He filed a notice disputing every claim. He did not attach Dr. Silva's full report yet. The judge had scheduled an early status conference, and Eric wanted the evidence presented in the proper order. Then he served document requests. He requested every communication involving my capacity, housing, trust, accounts, and property. He sent subpoenas to Whitney's lender, Jennifer's business, and Rodney's brokerage. Whitney had wanted a court record. Now the loan file and real estate file would have to enter it too. The lender produced its file 3 weeks before the hearing. Whitney's name appeared as the loan officer on the application. The amount requested was $150,000. Attached were the old trust certification and Shane's outdated successor information. A note said current authority documents would follow after a family capacity proceeding. The application date came before Jennifer's visit. Rodney's brokerage produced its file 2 days later. His unsigned pre-listing agreement named the Horton Family Revocable Trust as seller. It included a proposed commission, photographs taken from the street, and instructions to remove the rose garden before marketing. That document was older than Jennifer's report too. Shane came to Eric's office after receiving discovery copies through his attorney. He stood in the conference room, holding the loan application. "I've never seen this," he said. Eric looked at me. I asked, "Did you authorize it?" "No." "Did you know Rodney prepared a listing agreement?" "No." "Did you tell Whitney you'd become trustee?" "She said it would happen if the court agreed you needed help." "Did she tell you the loan was already submitted?" "No." He sat down slowly. "She said this was about keeping you safe. It was about making you useful." Shane covered his mouth with one hand. I didn't comfort him. He'd told relatives I was unfit. He'd signed a petition. Whitney may have built the road, but Shane walked down it. Eric filed our response under seal where medical information required privacy. Dr. Silva's notarized capacity letter went into the court record with his evaluation. The trust amendment and recorded statement of authority were filed beside it. The hearing took place 60 days after the petition. Mesa County Combined Court looked less dramatic than people expect. The courtroom had beige walls, wooden benches, and a clock that ran 2 minutes slow. Judge Andrea Francis entered shortly after 9. Shane and Whitney sat together at one table. Rodney sat behind them. Peggy, Martin, and several relatives filled the first bench. Dale sat beside me. Whitney's attorney presented Jennifer's report first. He described my locked mailbox, changed accounts, and refusal to accept help. Judge Francis looked over her glasses. "Ms. Munoz is not a physician?" "No, Your Honor." "Did she administer a recognized cognitive test?" "No." "Did Mr. Horton answer her orientation questions incorrectly?" The attorney checked his papers. "The report doesn't say." Eric stood. "Because he answered them correctly." He called Dr. Silva. Joseph explained the evaluation in ordinary terms. He described my test results, laboratory work, judgment, and ability to understand property decisions. Whitney's attorney asked whether one evaluation could guarantee I'd never decline. Joseph answered, "No medical examination guarantees the future. I evaluated his capacity when these documents were executed. He was capable." Eric placed the notarized letter before the judge. Then he presented the amended trust. Judge Francis checked the dates. "Both were completed before the petition?" "Yes, Your Honor. And before Mr. Horton received any direct demand for guardianship?" "Yes." Whitney sat very still. Eric moved to the lender's production. He showed Whitney the home equity application. "You submitted this?" "It was preliminary." "Why did it request $150,000? "That was an estimated amount." "Estimated for whom?" "For Philip's future care." "Had he requested care?" "No." "Had any doctor found him incapable?" "We had family concerns." "Why does your note say authority would follow after a capacity proceeding?" Whitney looked toward her attorney. He objected, but Judge Francis allowed the question. Whitney said, "That was one possible outcome." Eric placed Rodney's pre-listing agreement beside the application. "Was selling the house also one possible outcome?" "Yes." "Prepared before Jennifer visited?" Whitney didn't answer. The judge did. The date speaks for itself. Eric asked Shane whether he knew either document existed. "No," Shane said. His voice cracked. Whitney turned toward him. "You knew we needed options. I didn't know you applied for money. We discussed Dad's care. You said the loan would come later." The judge told them to speak through counsel. That ended Whitney's control of the room. Judge Francis took a short recess. When she returned, she ruled from the bench. She found no medical evidence supporting incapacity. She gave little weight to Jennifer's non-clinical report and substantial weight to Dr. Silva's evaluation. She found the trust amendment valid. Then she dismissed the guardianship and conservatorship petition outright. "The temporary freeze is lifted immediately," she said. Whitney's shoulders dropped. Judge Francis wasn't finished. She said the loan application raised serious questions because it used outdated authority documents against property Whitney didn't control. She referred the file to the state lending regulator and the district attorney's elder financial exploitation unit. She also directed the clerk to send Rodney's pre-listing agreement with the referral materials. No one was arrested in the courtroom. There was no shouting. The clerk gathered the files and the next case waited outside. That was enough. My bank restored the trust accounts that afternoon. Whitney's employer suspended her pending its investigation and the regulator's review. The company sent written confirmation that the application had never funded. Rodney's brokerage issued a statement saying he lacked authorization to list the house. They removed him from the file and stopped using him for internal referrals while they reviewed his conduct. Jennifer sent a letter saying she wouldn't provide further services involving me. Eric told her to preserve her records, and she agreed. Peggy came to the house the following Sunday. She stood beside the roses and apologized for signing her statement. "I should have asked what you knew," she said. "Yes, I believed Whitney, I know. She didn't ask me to forgive her immediately. That helped." Shane came alone the next evening. He looked tired. He said he had separated himself from Whitney's plan and was staying elsewhere while they decided what came next. "I'm sorry," he said. "I let her make your questions sound like symptoms. You also used my key. I know. You took my mail. I know. You asked a court to control my life." His eyes filled, but he didn't look away. "I know." He asked whether Dale would remain trustee. "Yes." "Are you ever putting me back?" "Not today." He nodded. "I understand. The door isn't shut, Shane, but trust has to be rebuilt on paper this time, not just promised." "What does that mean?" "It means you show up. You tell the truth when it's uncomfortable. Then we see." He came back that Saturday and helped replace the irrigation line along the western fence. I didn't hand him a house key. Not yet. That afternoon, I trimmed the dead blooms and tied one leaning branch to its support. The pink roses still caught the sun exactly where Carolyn had planted them. For once, the garden looked exactly as she'd left it. I learned that love doesn't require surrendering your judgment, and protecting yourself doesn't mean closing every door forever. If you believe family trust should be earned through actions, subscribe, share this story, and tell me in the comments what you would have done.